You know what? I'm going to talk anyway, because otherwise I'm going to sit here in silence, and the time's going on. I'm going to take you back to 1969, when the first movement, it was called the Women's Liberation Movement in those days, actually came across from America, because the original meeting was in Washington at that time, and a group of leftist Marxist women had got together at this very beginning meeting. In essence, they wanted a movement of their own, and they turned on their leftist men, partners and boyfriends and everything else, and said, look, we are going to change the goalposts. We need our own movement, we want our own funding, and there is very little money in left-wing movements. So what we'll do is we'll no longer be capitalism that's the problem and that we're going to fight to overcome. We're now going to move it to patriarchy. And I think that's a brilliant strategy. As a branding issue, how better could you get than half the other part of the human race is going to now pay you for your movement that's going to exclude them and create a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar industry over the last 40 years. I found, and where my heart was, even from the very beginning, it was trying to find out, how can you heal totally broken people? How can you love the unlovable? Because that's what I was seeing with the violent, dysfunctional women that came in. So my figure, which ties up with yours, is of the first 100 women that came into my refuge, 62 were as violent and some more violent than the men they left. And the rest were innocent victims of their partner's violence. Over the 12 years that I was running the refuge, if I went to speak, there was screaming feminists outside. I tried to publish a book called Prone to Violence. We finally did get it published, but I had to have a police escort all around England, and there were death threats and bomb threats. And the final moment came for me after struggling for all those years, when the bomb disposal unit came to my house, because there was a suspect package, and said everything that came to me had to go to them first, because they were concerned about my safety and the safety of my family. And that's when I left England and went into exile for something like 15 years.
En el juicio, con solo la declaración de la mujer, siempre y cuando no se contradiga, es suficiente para provocar una condena en este hombre. Ahora, ¿qué pasa a la inversa? Si a un hombre le maltratan o a un hombre, su pareja, le insulta, cuando acude a la comisaría, en el 90% de los casos, las denuncias no se recogen. Directamente. Yo tengo un...
En el 90, perdona,
en el 99
no
de cada 10 hombres que van a denunciar a comisarías de fuerzas de seguridad, tanto el Estado como autonómicas, en España, sus denuncias no son recogidas. ¿Por qué? Extraoficialmente, porque la ley de violencia de género tiene detrás un montón de entidades públicas que están hipersubvencionados y hay toda una ideología de género que es intocable.
Políticamente incorrecto, estadísticamente correcto, que se trata de un análisis comparativo de una recopilación de más de 500 estudios internacionales, desde 1975, año en que se llevó a cabo la primera gran encuesta nacional sobre violencia doméstica en los Estados Unidos. El número de estudios similares realizados en todo el mundo no ha dejado de crecer. Actualmente varios cientos de estudios empíricos demuestran de modo concluyente, primero, que hombres y mujeres ejercen la violencia en pareja en proporciones similares, y segundo, que estadísticamente la mujer es la principal iniciadora de las agresiones físicas en la pareja, y es falso que la violencia femenina sea exclusivamente en autodefensa. Ese corpus mundial de estudios sobre la violencia en la pareja debería ser el fundamento estadísticamente correcto de las políticas y legislaciones sobre la violencia doméstica, si no estuviese permanentemente excluido de ellas por resultar políticamente incorrecto y contrarios a los prejuicios ideológicos vigentes. Concluyendo que, excepto en lo referente a la coacción sexual, hombres y mujeres perpetran abuso físico y no físico en porcentajes similares. Concluía con que la mayor parte de la violencia doméstica era mutua. Las mujeres eran tan controladoras como los hombres y la violencia doméstica de hombres y mujeres estaba correlacionada con los mismos factores de riesgo y sus motivaciones son similares en ambos casos.
My problem was they only wanted to hear about innocent victims of partners' violence. What enraged them and made me the enemy was I said, no, but it's not like that. It's not a gender issue. It has nothing to do with patriarchy. That's a whole made-up nonsense. It's actually fraud.
Se podría decir a día de hoy que la ley ha sido un absoluto fracaso, porque por un lado no protege a las mujeres maltratadas, porque estadísticamente los delitos y los homicidios de mujeres siguen siendo prácticamente los mismos, y por otro lado habilita la posibilidad de que la ley en cuestión sea usada de forma torticera por mujeres para conseguir beneficios en procesos de separación.
At that point, before I actually opened the refuge, the women's movement, both across the Western world, became a very fashionable thing to do. And they did get funding, as thousands of women paid to join this movement. In England, it cost you £3.10, which is quite a lot of money, actually, in the 70s. But that money was running out, so they needed further funding. And this I knew would happen. Even as I actually opened the door and the women poured in, I thought to myself, yeah, this is going to be perfect. It's a perfect issue for a feminist movement who say all men are violent. And it's a perfect funding issue, because as long as you make sure that the women are told and everybody is brainwashed into thinking of women as victims, then you have an income and it will become jobs for the girls. We shouldn't be sitting here having to go on yet again about what this evil empire is doing. It's doing it to men, women, and children. I want one day to make many of these women accountable. I want to actually charge them with fraud. Yeah, I do. Hillary Clinton would be the first on my list. She is behind a huge amount of what's going on, and she wants to bring the Violence Against Women's Act global. Can you imagine the amount of money they can make?
En definitiva, la violencia de género y las leyes construidas a su alrededor son una gran estafa, como todo aquello que lleva la palabra género de apellido. Una estafa criminal levantada sobre los derechos fundamentales a la presunción de inocencia de la mitad de la población. Y en esas estamos ahora mismo. Todos los días, a través de los medios de comunicación, te venden una narrativa que es falsa. No es otra cosa que propaganda al servicio de una forma de entender las relaciones entre personas y las estructuras de nuestra sociedad de forma sesgada y sostenida en doctrinas ideológicas. Y así difícilmente se puede afrontar la problemática de la violencia en el ámbito de la pareja, ya de por sí complicada. No se puede afrontar un problema si nuestros axiomas de base están construidos alrededor de una mentira repetida 1000 veces. Una mentira que además se puede desmontar muy fácilmente. Una mentira que es la piedra angular de la industria del género y con la que hay que terminar lo antes posible por el bien de todos. Soy un tío blanco hetero.
And now women are going to have to sit back and think, okay, where are we now? All I can say from my experience, there was a time when any time I spoke, I would have been screamed at and harassed, and there would have been pickets outside. I spoke at a big women's festival in London, and the room was packed with young women. And I ended saying, if men and women don't get together to work to stop this, then there is no future for us or our children. And you know, they all agreed. And that's my great hope. I believe that the wind of change is now coming. And what we have to look now very, very coldly is this has nothing to do, the radical feminist movement has nothing to do with the pain and suffering of people or children. They're not interested. It is an empire, and it is an evil empire.